Swimming like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Welcome back to another episode of the Shrimp Tank, the first one of the year. Happy New Year. We come to you virtually from Seattle and the entire Pacific Northwest. And today we're driving down I-5 all the way into Los Angeles. Listen, if you want to learn how to start, grow, or run a successful business, you found yourself in the right place. This is where we say street smarts and book smarts collide. Hello again, everyone. I'm Dan Whedon, and I'm joined by my co-host, Craig Swanson. Our guest today is my good friend, Marnye Langer. As the president and CEO of the Langer Group, Marnie's galloping through the industry with a medley of ventures from event management to marketing marvels, not to mention a riding school that's more than just horsing around. When she's not steering the reins of her businesses, Marnie's making waves in competitive show jumping, dressage, and more. A judge with the U.S. Equestrian Federation, she's got an eye for champions and is a governance guru in the sport. When she's off the saddle, she's an award-winning rider with a knack for turning phrases as gracefully as she rides. And in the world of insurance, she's decked out with top honors and designations. Plus, she's sharing her wisdom and skill as part of a national faculty teaching insurance professionals. Marnie, welcome. We're glad to have you on the first show of 2024. We'll be right with you. Everyone, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. We're on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, just for you, Craig, Overcast, and YouTube. You can say we are ubiquitous. Now, before we bring on Marnie, Happy New Year, Craig.
Happy New Year, Dan. It's turning out to be a really busy and great one so far. How is your 2024?
Well, first of all, on the last day of 2023, I turned 59.
Oh.
So I had a birthday last year.
Have we had this conversation? So you're a December 31st birth baby?
You're just now finding out.
Well, I guess maybe this came up last year. My grandfather's a CPA, so like you are the ideal baby from a tax benefit standpoint.
Well, the reason I was the reason I was December 31 is my mom wanted to have her glass of champagne. I was a planned cesarean for January 3rd. She said to the doctor, "Can we do this early?" He said yes, and so that's how it came to be. But on the next day, Craig, the year's off to a tremendous start. I'm wearing my purple. You inadvertently are wearing your purple. As a University of Washington alum, class of 1987, the Huskies are going to the Natty. We're going to the national championship, and I'm so excited. I have to tell you though, on Monday night, the first day of the new year, I have a confession to make. I probably pretty much lost it in about the last 10 minutes of the game. I was out of my mind. We were blowing the lead. We had the lead the entire game. We were losing it. I was on my feet. I was on my knees. I was yelling. Barb had her noise canceling earphones on. And at one point, me, after yelling at a guy who's injured to get up and get off the field, I feel horrible about now. But in the moment, I'm beside myself. Barb says, "Is everything okay?" And I yelled back, "No, everything's not okay. It's not okay. And I can't talk about it now." So I think I turned 59, but then I think I dropped some ages off at the end of my life. I'm going to see if I can get them back. That 10 minutes just about did me in. But needless to say, I'm ecstatic. The Huskies are going to Houston to play Michigan in the Natty, and I'm thrilled. So my question for you, and I'm glad you're wearing purple. I know your son is a Duck, so that makes me feel even better. Is there anything that gets your passion so ignited, so fired up?
Well, first of all, I definitely see this passion in my son and my wife. So like there was a lot of activity watching the same game from the other side, rooting because my son goes to a rival school.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like for me, like my passion is usually around solving a really, really tricky problem. Like usually there's this thing that builds up and I'll spend months and months trying to solve something. And I'll just like have this cathartic breakthrough and no one understands. I'll sometimes just have to call up my wife or friends and just say, pretend you understand what I'm about to say and give me some type of like response to it as if I just did something really cool, even if you don't know what I'm talking about.
That sounds
Because
very Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory. I'm just telling you that
yeah.
you might have a lot of Sheldon Cooper in you, right?
Well, I mean, if I also don't think Sheldon pays much attention to football, so I think
I don't
that would
think
be
he did
only.
either. Yes, no,
Yeah.
I don't think he did. Now we got to get off football and we got to start talking about horses
Mhm.
because our guest Marnye Langer, I know, is passionate about horses, and I know from our conversations, Marnye, that you've put up with my golf and my football analogies, and you've said, "Hey, horses, there's a lot of similarities. All of these things you're talking about, we talk about too." So my first question is, tell me, have you ever gotten that fired up at a horse, an equestrian event of some sort? And then please tell everybody all the cool things you do.
Well, thanks, Dan and Craig. Yeah, I can definitely think of a really exciting moment, but I'm going to segue back to football really quick because I'm a little more Craig and a little less Dan. But a number of years ago, when my son Ian was in high school, his senior year, his band got to go to the Sugar Bowl as one of the chosen high school bands to perform in the halftime show. And it was in New Orleans at the Super Bowl. And I was band president. And so I got to go along, and we got passes to sit on the field on the 50-yard line. And it was Oklahoma and Alabama, and they were huge. Anyhow, there I am, 50-yard line, best seats you could ask for. I'm doing some social media back at home, and all I'm getting from all my friends is, "This is so wasted on you." And my highlight of being at the Superdome, and this is where my event management experience comes in, the morning of the band had gone over for rehearsal, and I managed to take my friend and I on a behind the scenes tour of the Super Bowl. And we got a lot of places before we were finally caught and escorted back to the parents, because here's the deal. If you have a radio in your hand, there was one sitting on a table, so I snagged the radio, being an event management person. And if you walk around with commitment, you can go a long ways before you finally get busted. And about the 10th person was like, "Can I help you?" I'm like, "No, we're good." And he's like, "Yeah, I think I can." So
that's hilarious. I've never heard that story. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was great. It was really cool. And so, there is one of my passions, events and facilities, and I love the behind the scenes stuff. But in our sport of show jumping, the annual World Cup finals are held as an indoor event as opposed to being out on a big field. And back in 2017, the United States hosted the World Cup finals in Omaha, Nebraska. Not exactly a horse mecca, but they did a phenomenal job. And our Americans, we had not won the World Cup for many, many years. And my husband Larry and I went to the World Cup finals. We actually owned a horse that was competing. He wasn't really a candidate to be a winner, but he competed, and it was exciting. So the last day, our U.S. rider, McLean Ward, who's one of the just top international riders, he was in the lead. And then what happened was Larry and I had to get to the airport to catch our plane, and there was one final round left, and we weren't going to be able to stay to watch and see. And McLean was the very last to go. So there I am sitting in the airport at my gate, watching on my little computer tablet, and embarrassing my husband and having lots of people scratching their heads as I jumped every jump with McLean. And he jumped the last jump without making any mistakes and won the World Cup. And I'm jumping up and down like a 6-year-old, and everybody's looking at me. And because we were flying Southwest and they're really cool, and the gate person had asked me, what I was so into. And so she announced over the loudspeaker that McLean Ward brought the show jumping World Cup home to the United States. So I get it, being super excited. And, that's a little bit what life is about, getting excited about something and making no apologies.
That is amazing. What is McLean named after?
What is McLean named after?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not really sure. I know his
Mhm,
father is
mhm,
a gentleman named Barney Ward, and
mhm,
he spells it MC capital
mhm.
LAIN, McLean Ward.
Oh.
Super, super nice fellow,
Mhm,
consummate
mhm,
professional, absolute gentleman, superior horseman, just
mhm.
an all around good guy. Has a family. He's just an icon in our sport, and a wonderful role model.
All right. Well, I would just love to, Dan gave a really great intro and like your hands are in so many things. Um, I would just love a picture of like what do you do day to day these days? Like where are you spending your time with all these things that you've got to work with?
What do I do? Well,
Mhm,
first off, the only way I am able to accomplish the things I can do is I have a phenomenal team of people around me. And they're just amazing. And I really see my primary function as being supportive to my team, whether it's making sure we've got the right technologies, giving them the coaching, and knowing when to get out of the way. I think that's really, really important for a leader, especially if you want people who are going to make decisions and be leaders. And you can't micromanage. So our parent company is called the Langer Group, and shout out to my husband Larry, who started the company back in the very early 70s, and we celebrated our 50th anniversary in 2021, which, for a small business is pretty remarkable. And I always laugh, calling it a small business because it feels like a behemoth to me. But in the grand scheme of things, we're not Boeing or Microsoft. Um, so we're immersed in the horse industry, as Dan has alluded to, and we have a horse show management company called LEG Shows and Events, and our two primary groups of horse shows we produce are a top national set of horse shows in Colorado, 11 weeks in Parker, Colorado, and my teammate Charlotte runs those and does a phenomenal job. And then we have a smaller set of shows, a little bit more weekend warrior focused here in LA, which segues over to our facility, Hanson Dam Horse Park, which is both a boarding and an event center, right on the periphery of Los Angeles. And it's pretty amazing to know that Los Angeles County is among the top 5 or 6 counties in the country by horse population.
mm.
really?
So as urban as LA is, it's just amazing, all the different pockets of horses and horse activities that exist. So I serve as the general manager of Hanson Dam Horse Park with a super team: Sam, Samantha, our operations manager, Victor, our facility manager, and Gabriel, who's his assistant. And we have a riding school that's based here at Hanson Dam Horse Park, and they give riding lessons. So you can take your very first riding lesson on a horse and get introduced to the wonderful world, all the way up to leasing or owning your own horse. And our director, Joya, just does a wonderful job keeping people safe and teaching them and sharing her passion and love of horses.
But,
And then,
oh, go
yeah,
ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. I go ahead. Please
sorry,
finish.
our litany. We have our insurance agency, Legis, who very capably run by Sarah and her team, and they're actually in Aiken, South Carolina. We made the move out of California for many reasons, both personal and professional, and Legis is thriving there. Fantastic team. My wonderful executive assistant moved to Aiken. I miss her on a daily basis, but we're really showing that you can keep relationships going with good communication and technology. And she just qualified for a loan, and she actually is in a position to buy her own house, which was one of the reasons for moving out of California. That opportunity just wasn't available to her, and she's like 22. So it's really exciting that to see my team be able to do really great things with their lives. And then our last piece is Leg Up Media, which is our marketing and PR group, run by the dynamic duo of Amy and Courtney, the leg up ladies, we call them, and they're in Oklahoma, and they're just lovely. So I have a super group of people.
And you do, and I've known you for a number of years now, Marnye, and you've done a tremendous job in building leadership. And one of the things you said in answer to Craig's question was that you get out of the way. That's kind of one of your roles, to get out of the way. That's easier said than done, though, right? I mean, you've got a lot of moving parts, and you've delegated a lot of leadership to people. For those saying, man, it's hard for me to get out of the way, what have you been able to do in your time to say, I've got a role to do and I've got to let people do their thing?
First off, you've got to have good people, and then you've got to trust that you actually have good people. And we look for 3 main characteristics in our team members, and that is honesty. You can't teach it. You've either got it or you don't. A willingness to learn, and that doesn't mean a college education necessarily. And it means a willing to be a lifelong learner. And then the final trait, which I believe is earned, is loyalty. That person showing loyalty to the company and the team, and it extended back to them. And if you've got those 3 things, and you also develop good systems and processes, then just like a parent, you got to be willing to let go of the toddler's hand. And if he falls down, it's okay. And I actually see so many parallels with both training a horse or parenting a child or building a team. And that is accepting the fact that there's going to be mistakes. And I feel what my job is to protect us from the fatal mistakes and let the other mistakes be learning tools. And I think that's where we all learn our best lessons. Some of the most painful mistakes become your best lessons.
That is so in the direction I was actually going to ask my question, because my daughter goes to a writing school, a special needs education writing school, and the relationship with the horse and the relationship with the instructors is all part of the educational, and like learning how to communicate, learning bravery, learning all sorts of different parts of relationship. And it really made me wonder if your experience around training and working with animals and working with people, working with animals, like influenced your leadership skills. And I love the way you said that, where the mistakes are part of the process of learning as opposed to something to avoid.
Yeah. And I mean, how wonderful that your daughter's in a therapeutic program. There's so many really awesome therapeutic programs, and they just do tremendous things for the people involved. And that's exciting to hear. And I bet she gets a lot out of it. Yeah. I mean, I draw on my horse experience all the time, and I'm very, very grateful. I've had wonderful horsemen throughout my life who have, shared their wisdom and knowledge, and sometimes had to even beat me over the head. But and I really rely on that in really all of my interactions. And I tell my leaders, who are working with their own teams and other teammates, and that when something doesn't go right, be very, very quick to address it. That doesn't mean being mean, and it doesn't mean and it cannot be personalized. It has to be focused on the issue. We talk about a no blame zone, but if you, just like with a horse has about a 3-second cause and effect ability in its brain, and if the horse does something you don't like and you don't make a correction to that horse in 3 seconds, and you correct the horse 10 seconds later, it's now abuse. The horse doesn't understand. All of a sudden, you're maybe jerking on the lead rope or smacking him on the shoulder because he got in your personal space, but you waited too long. So he can't make the appropriate correlation. And I'm very much that way with coaching staff and addressing things myself with staff, and then coaching my leaders, my other leaders, that as hard as it is and painful as it is, bite the bullet and address the issue in a timely fashion. And then the corollary to that is praise, and praise often. And don't wait for perfection. You're not getting it. But the moment you, just like with the horse, if you're training the horse to do something and he starts to try to do what you're asking, don't wait till he does it perfectly. Praise him then, and then that performance will be improved. And who among us doesn't like to be complimented sincerely?
I love that answer. That is truly amazing. Marnye, we got to pay the bills though. We got to take a quick short break. We're going to take a short break to hear from today's spotlight sponsor. And when we come back with our guest, Marnye Langer, for our Hot or Not section of the show, we're going to ask Marnye about New Year's resolutions. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Shrimp Tank. EO Accelerator is a coaching program for Seattle area business owners who want to grow their existing small businesses beyond $1 million in annual revenue. As a small business owner, you face new challenges every day, whether it's deciding how you're going to fill a rush of new orders, puzzling out where to find new customers, or sweating about making payroll. Do you ever find yourself wishing you had an instruction manual for your business? Well, at EO Accelerator, our mission is to empower entrepreneurs with the tools, accountability, and community to aggressively grow and master their business. This is more than just theory. This is entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs, with top Seattle business leaders who have been where you are at volunteering as coaches and mentors in the Accelerator program. Because the hustle will only get you so far, the next level of success is a team sport. Want to hit $1 million in revenue? Join the club.
All right. Thank you, Dan. And welcome back to the Shrimp Tank, where we are interviewing the best and the brightest CEOs and thought leaders in the greater Puget Sound area and beyond to the West Coast. I'm Craig Swanson. Our guest today is Marnye Langer. And for our next segment, Hot or Not.
Well, Marnye, I know you're a listener and of our show. And so you know at Hot or Not, Craig and I are going to pepper you with questions that could come from anywhere. You're going to let us know if it's hot or not. And at the end, you win absolutely nothing, but we hope you have some fun. Hot or not? I mean, I teased this out. Do you have any, are New Year's resolutions hot or not? Why or why not? And if they're hot, do you have one?
Well, I don't know about for anybody else, and I've already warned my whole team. For me, they're hot. I just find New Year's as this great moment to pause, reflect, and, it's a little bit of a reset. And what do you want to do for the coming year? And, I just am of the belief that anybody who's committed to their life path, there's not a complete separation, personal and professional. And I find that meaningful goals or resolutions, however you want to frame it, they cross over both. So yeah, my team is getting challenged to bring to the table either something they want to learn, a skill they want to enhance, a habit they want to improve. We're big fans of James Clear and Atomic Habits. So what 1% change does somebody want to make? And I do it for myself. And I really challenge myself to look at some things that I want to do just that 1% better.
I love it. Do you have any interesting New Year's goals that you want to share with people? Like you have anything that's kind of like a little bit inspiring to you personally?
Oh, gosh. I am making a goal to work on setting aside and being disciplined about focus time each day and picking a thing that I am going to focus on and turn down the noise or try to ignore the noise of email and text and talking with somebody. Or I'm a champion procrastinator. So that's one of my big goals is to just 1%. Do a little better on my focus tasks.
That is fantastic. All right, so I've got a hot or not for you. So hot or not, you've got a lot of people in your life working with family in the business.
In small business, I'm going to say hot, and I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball, and I'm going to say, how do you want to define family? Because
I kind of thought you might go there because it sounds like you extend your family to the people that you work with.
Yeah, we really describe ourselves as one big, funny, sometimes a little dysfunctional, muddy family. But at the end of the day, we share common goals. and we truly, truly care about one another. And we don't expect people to come to work and necessarily share every aspect of their lives, but at the same time, we also know in our business culture that if somebody's super, super private and guarded, that's not wrong. It's just probably not going to be a comfortable fit with us. And we love sharing with people their successes. We are there to share their challenges. We had a lovely woman in our Legis office who, she's my age. I'm the big 6-0 in December. I'm about 14 days before Dan and a year. She just lost her husband this fall, and it was really, really hard. And our team really rallied around her. And we just had a young lady get engaged. And again, our team rallied around, is very excited. So for me, family is a very broad, and you get to define who your family is. You don't get to define your relatives, and it's fantastic when your relatives can be your family. But for me, family's hot because that's a little bit what makes the wheels turn on our companies.
So Marnye, it's amazing for me to think, because we worked a lot during this time. 4 years ago, COVID came about. I mean, it's amazing to believe it's been 4 years. But you and I worked closely together during this time professionally, and we talked a lot personally as well. That was a period of time that everybody was challenged, every business. But you're in the event management world. You're in the world of being with people, and that was a big part of it. Talk about how every aspect of your organization had to come together and persevere through that pandemic, and how you came out the other end.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, I have to say your support and availability to me at that time was invaluable. There were days, so 2 of our businesses were considered essential businesses, the insurance agency because of being financial, and then the equestrian center, Hanson Dam Horse Park. We had almost 200 horses on the property, and they had to get fed and taken care of and all of that. So a group of us were going to work every single day. The greatest thing about COVID were the LA freeways. That might have been the only great thing. Well, and Zoom. I think COVID taught us we truly can use technology to stay way more connected. Okay, those are the 2 positives. I'm not sure there are any others. COVID was tough, and especially the early days were scary, and there were so many unknowns. And there were days I would walk into the office and I would just look at the faces of my team, and you could just see the fear and the uncertainty, and were we going to get through it, and were they going to still have jobs, and were we going to be financially viable? And I have to tell you, there were days as I pulled up in front of the office, I had to take a couple minutes in my car and, like, I don't know, I guess it's like actors getting into character. And I didn't necessarily feel it, but man, I just felt like I had to present stability. I mean, I wasn't going to lie to people and say, oh, everything's great, because it wasn't. But I tried to always present like, we're going to figure this out and we're going to be okay. Don't know all the details. And it actually was the impetus for me beginning to look at both where I wanted to be personally. I'm a 5th generation Californian, and my son's not gonna, as a 6th, isn't gonna stay here. Business-wise, we were really struggling, especially with Legis, to attract and retain really quality staff, because young people could not afford to live here. Middle-aged people couldn't afford to live here. So long story short, I identified Aiken, South Carolina as this option for us. Same latitude as Burbank, small town feel, near enough airports that you could get anywhere in the world, and very, very horsey. And I had a 5-year plan. It kind of all happened in 9 months. Bought a property. Sarah, moved. Her immediate family and her parents and her brother all followed her, and she set up shop in the cool house that we bought, and it has an office below, and Legis is thriving in Aiken, South Carolina. And Larry and I are looking to head that way probably in the near future. And then I'll come back to California as we wrap up our California businesses over the next 4 years.
That is a story that's resonated with me and some many other entrepreneurs I've seen that have almost had a chance to kind of reassess their own personal relationship with the business and where they want to go. I was thinking about just kind of like, I'm picking up a couple things as we talk. One is you're you're delivering a world-class business and you're competing. You work with people who compete at a world-class level, and you care and you take care of your team. And I kind of want to ask a question I ask a lot of entrepreneurs occasionally is, what's more important to you, the results of the business or the experience in the business?
Wow. It's a little bit of both. I mean, at the end of the day, you're in business to make a profit. I mean, that's just, otherwise you're volunteering for a nonprofit or you have a hobby. So obviously there need to be results. But I think it's the experience trumps the results, because I could have pursued, and periodically I kind of get headhunted, and I could go make the big time large six-figure salary and stuff. And I've actually waited, and actually about 6 years ago for the insurance agency, we got an offer to be bought, and I actually pursued it very seriously. And at the end of the day, decided not to sell the agency because I like the process, and I like the experience, and I like a little bit of the autonomy. And I kind of joke, but seriously, I would make a terrible employee. I would just be a pain in the neck. So, as long as my needs are being met, and I have enough financial stability, then it's very much about the experience. And of course, I want the results of the company to be strong, because I want my team members to be able to thrive and grow. So I want the results to be strong so that we can have growth. And then, it's the journey.
Well, speaking of the journey, part of that, and we, here on this show, we've talked about business succession and exit and all of that quite a bit. You're still working all over the place and all the things you're doing. And your husband, Larry, I don't want to say you booted him out, but he's retired. I'll put that in air quotes, maybe a little bit. He's retired. He started, as you said, the business 50 years ago. Talk about that process, husband, wife, founder, being really in a position that he has exited the business. There's a lot of people listening or watching that might be in a similar situation. What thoughts do you have that you can share with them?
Communicate, and communicate some more. And whether it's a family succession, or you're thinking about an acquisition or a merger or selling or doing some kind of employee option, I'm a fan of being as candid and forthright as possible. Put your cards on the table. I don't think secrets get us very far. Retirement was really, really hard for Larry. Highly functional, smart man, super driven, and a classic founder. Had a vision, implemented it, and started a top of it management company. I mean, at one point we were one of the largest horse show companies in the country. And in some ways he never, at least, for quite a while, never really saw a path for succession. And then when he and I got together and I wanted to be really involved with the business and everything, it was like the first time he saw this future and this ability to build a legacy for himself and for his family, me and Ian, and even in our industry. And I think he's really proud of the fact that the Langer Group has changed and morphed. It's different than what it was with him, and it's more complex. Ultimately, he's really happy and proud about it. And then I've started the succession path because you can't start too early. So my succession path started with Sarah, and she has become a 25% owner of Legis, the insurance agency. And I think one of my most exciting and gratifying moments was saying, hey, I think you should have a share of Legis. And she looked at me and she said, yeah, but you know, when you and Larry started it and I came on as the first employee, Larry made it really, and I asked about ownership and Larry made it very clear that wasn't an option. I said, I understand. And I know why it was that way, and times have changed. And so I'm coming back to you and I'm saying, I think you need an ownership position. And she's like, oh my God. We talked some numbers and she said, well, and so we agreed on numbers. And then she said, well, I think, you know, 10%, maybe 15. And I looked at her and I said, no, you're going to get 25. And she said, I can't afford that. And I said, yes, we're going to make it so you can afford it. And you're going to have 25. So communicate. I mean, if you're any more than a sole proprietor, you owe it. If you really value the people around you, you owe it to have those sorts of plans in place. And even if it's uncomfortable because you don't want to think about not being here on the earth, too bad. You took on the responsibility for having a company and having a family, and now you owe it to them to make sure that there's a path forward.
What a great story. Thank you for sharing that. I can't believe how fast we're motoring through. We got to take our second break. We're going to take that short break to hear from our corporate sponsors. And when we come back with our guest, Marnye Langer, Marnye, Craig and I are showing up at your house with a proposition for you. Hang tough because our Plead the Fifth section of the show is up next. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Shrimp Tank. And Plead the Fifth is brought to you by our corporate sponsors, Ideal Life 360, Cornerstone Financial, First Underwriters Insurance, BC Fitness Studio, Port Ludlow Resort. Please visit our website at www.shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle to learn more about these terrific companies. Now back to the show.
All right. Welcome back to the Shrimp Tanks, folks, where we interview the best and the brightest from the West Coast. I'm co-host Craig Swanson, and our guest today is Marnye Langer, and our next segment is Plead the Fifth.
You know how this goes. I don't think you're a Plead the Fifth kind of gal there. I think but you know you can once, but only once. So listen, Craig and I show up at your house, front door, knock on the door, first thing in the morning, and we say, here's what we're doing today. Marnye, is treat yourself day. You have the whole day free. Money is no object. Where you go is no object. You get a treat yourself day. What would you do on your day?
So boring. Gosh, you know, treat myself. People are like, oh, you should, you know, take more vacations. And I'm like, oh, my idea of a great vacation is a staycation. You know, treat myself day would probably be turning off all the devices, and I'd probably find some cool walk or something to do with our dog. And well, actually, it's not a walk, it's a sniff. She goes on sniffs. Dan knows.
Yeah.
She has a big, long nose. So instead of getting frustrated with her, we go on sniffs. And then if I need more exercise, I take her home and go for a run or a ruck. I'd play in my garden. I'm an earthworm farmer now. There's a batch of earthworms living in my basement. And they make really great castings for my garden. And I'd probably play with my sourdough and make some yummy treat for a friend, because it's really fun to hand off a nice warm loaf of bread to somebody. And, you know, I would putter so contentedly.
Oh, sounds great. Do you spend most of your time taking care of others, or do you spend some time taking your time for yourself?
You know, you can't take care of others if you don't take care of yourself. I mean, that's just, I think anytime you've got people who are relying on you to keep your act together so that they can pay their mortgages and raise children and all of that, you have a huge responsibility to take care of yourself. You know, sometimes I feel, you know, pulled in too many directions and things like that. But I understand that self-care is critically important. This summer, I got 3 dam kittens, and that's dam as in DAM, although you could add an N sometimes. My facility manager, a feral cat on our Hanson Dam horse park property, had some kittens. 3 of them appeared to be abandoned. And I ended up raising them from 3 weeks old, and they're now hitting 6 months. And boy, there's something about having kittens in your house that you gotta just stop and get in the moment. And having those things that get you in the moment, they really help. You know, I get my hands dirty with my earthworms and making my sourdough bread. That's very tactile. And then my animals, and just, you know, finding those moments.
That's really cool. You know, you were talking earlier about legacy and your multiple business. I want to ask you, what do you dislike most about in your industry today that you would like to see your legacy reflect a change in? I'm not sure if that makes sense, but what impact would you like to have changing the industry you're in?
That's a loaded question. Government overlords. I could do with a lot fewer government overlords. You know, I'm in LA, and, you know, California with all of its regulations has made business more and more difficult. I really resent the attitude that business people by and large look to cheat and abuse their people. Does it happen? Yes. Is it a minority? Absolutely. How am I served as a business person taking advantage of people? It just really offends me. And then it's further complicated by the fact that the Hanson Dam Horse Park is a piece of land owned by Army Corps of Engineers and run by City of Los Angeles. So I operate on a concession agreement. I don't own the land, I own the business. And I have government overlords who like to tell me what I can and can't do. And there's a lot of lack of common sense, but yeah, government overlords. It's kind of why we're in Aiken, South Carolina also.
All right, so now this could be my final question. Like I said, I can't believe how fast things are going. My final question. We all can be our own worst critics at times, Marnye. I know that we can. I've been that way myself, and sometimes we all battle with imposter syndrome. Tell us what you struggle with still, even after all this time. Tell us some things that you have to work hard to try to deal with in your role.
You know, I really think it is that feeling of imposter syndrome. You know, there's the days I wake up and say, wow, how lucky am I? And that's great. And then there's just those times I'm like, oh my God, am I going to be like, you know, the wizard in the Wizard of Oz, and they're going to look behind the screen and, you know, I'm just this 10-year-old kid who loves horses, and they're going to find out I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I think that's in some ways the hardest battle. And I find for me, both keeping grounded helps, and having some peers around me that I can just be really honest with and do a check-in, whether it's advisors like you or some of my other fantastic advisors I have, and some of my higher up peers. Sarah has just become friend, business partner, work peer. And then I'm very, very fortunate in that Sam, who's my operations manager here at Hanson Dam Horse Park, we started with a very suspicious, difficult relationship, just given circumstances, and have come out the other side, you know, with a fantastic relationship we keep building on. So having somebody, a handful of people that in those tougher moments, you can kind of let your hair down and say, oh, I'm feeling nervous, or I'm questioning things.
You know, you've talked a lot about employees, and I'm just curious, just kind of as like final question, like what moment are you most proud of with something that your employee has done or experienced in their life that you were able to contribute to?
Oh, I think when you see a team member, like the light bulb goes off and you just see that confidence in them and they problem solve something, or you see the beginnings of leadership skills. I think I get more satisfaction from seeing my team members accomplish something than accomplishing it myself. It's just really gratifying.
That's great. So, Marnye, thank you so much for being a guest here on the Shrimp Tank. For our listeners that want to get in touch with you, learn more about your company, how to work with you, where can they get more information?
We have a myriad of websites, langershows.com, legisequine.com. The best way to get a hold of me is my email. It's kind of on all those websites, Marnye, have to spell the first name because it's a little weird, at langershows.com. I'm okay on social media. I check Facebook. I have Instagram. Don't go to LinkedIn because I only go there about 6 times a year. I know, Dan. I know. So yeah, email's a great way to get me. And I love meeting new people and forming new connections.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. And for all of you watching, make sure you check out the replays at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle. And wherever you listen to your podcasts, iHeartRadio, Apple, Stitcher, I Like Overclass, please follow us on our social media pages on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and give us a like and follow us there.
Well, Marnye, thank you very much for being here. I'm trying to think back how many years we've known each other. Craig, the way we met, ironically, was I was teaching a class in Pasadena for insurance agents, and one of Marnye's employees was there. I think 2 of them were, and one came to me and said, "You need to meet my boss." And that introduction was made, and the rest, as they say, is history. Marnye, it's been great to see you. Happy New Year. Thanks for being here. Craig, Happy New Year to you. Keep wearing purple. None of that green stuff. Keep wearing that purple at least through next week. Great to see you. Have a Happy New Year. Everyone, do exactly what Craig said. Like us on our Facebook page. That's where we live stream every Wednesday at noon Pacific. Our next show will be on Wednesday, January 10th. Our guest will be another good friend of mine, Betsy Jordan. She's a consultant living now in Denver. My co-host for the show. We have a new co-host introduced to me by Craig, Vanessa Laughlin. Prior guest is now one of our new co-hosts. So Vanessa will be making her debut next week. So everybody join us then. But in the meantime, be safe, be well, and be prosperous, because until next week, the shrimp is back in the tank. So long.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond.